Now it's time for our review of Martin Scorsese's The Irishman. This is the movie that's been much talked about. This is the first movie he's made outside the normal realms of media distribution. He's made it with Netflix, and it's cost a bunch of money.
Which is just so paradoxical in so many ways.
Right, to the Martyisms.
He was all like, if I'm not mistaken, was he not one of the people championing that Netflix things shouldn't get nominated and all that?
It was part. He was definitely involved in some of that. He was
being all, the cinema experience, blah, 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 whatever.
I think his one condition was that this movie be released in theaters. But even then, I actually watched the Hollywood Reporter Roundtable, and he said even if that wasn't a conditional thing, he still would have made this with Netflix because no one else wanted to make this for him or with him. They didn't want to bankroll it, which says a lot.
Okay.
So this movie is, of course, about Frank Sheeran, who is an individual that was involved with the Bufalino crime family and Jimmy Hoffa. He was a hitman, and he was kind of like the Forrest Gump, like a real-life Forrest Gump of a lot of different things.
Seen all the shit.
Seen a lot of shit. World War II, JFK assassination.
And, of course, Union leader Jimmy Hoffa.
And the disappearance of him therein.
Yes. So I'll just start off by saying this movie was very good, but it was way too goddamn long. I don't give it. I'm sorry. I give him the benefit of the doubt a lot of times with movies being long. Wolf of Wall Street, it's about investment banking fraud, and they made it interesting for 3 hours. Same can be said, Casino, 3 hours long. It justified its length. This didn't justify it being 3.5 hours.
This was a major come to Jesus moment for me.
Not that it wasn't good, but
no, it's solid. It's very solid. But it taught me that even Martin Scorsese, a person, needs constraints. Because was the 3.5 hour runtime justified for me either? Startlingly no. There are numerous moments and bits of dialogue and even entire scenes that are just, they're either repeat ideas or ideas that we're already well acquainted with. And I'm like, just let's go. I don't need to see this again. I get it that they're friends. I get it. We don't need to see this. This did not need to be 3.5 hours long, but it's good. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of the hubbub surrounding it also is a little bit too overhyped. The runtime was a big overhyped thing. The de-aging effects were overhyped. People talking about how advanced it is and how some people talking about how distracting it is. I'm like, after the first 5 minutes
you get used to it.
You get used to it, but you know what else?
What's that?
There's a fucking video that came out recently of a guy in his house that took scenes from The Irishman and used what do they call that? Deep fake technology.
Yeah.
And he deep faked old like De Niro from Taxi Driver onto De Niro in this movie when he's supposed to be young. It's embarrassing. It looks so much better.
Really? I didn't find the de-aging to really be that much of a problem at all.
It's not bad, but it's they don't, you gotta admit that young De Niro in this does not look like De Niro in, say, Taxi Driver or Godfather.
I wasn't thinking about that at all, though.
I was. I'm he looks like De Niro. He looks like, it's not bad, but the first 10 minutes or so, you're like, this just looks like De Niro now with his wrinkles just kind of airbrushed away from it. It's not terrible, and it goes away.
Yeah.
But it isn't. It's anybody who thinks this is the best version of what it could be. It's just, I don't think it could be. I think there's better technology out there.
Yeah. And speaking of the best version, I almost feel like because there was a lot to go over, and as you mentioned, the kind of Forrest Gump go through the whole history kind of deal, I almost wonder, would this have worked better as a miniseries?
It's a very interesting point.
Because it's too long, but at the same time, there is a lot to cover, so breaking it up into chunks, let's say 6 to 8 episode miniseries, maybe to get to explore some of those things even further, but also structure it a little more. Also,
Marty, I'm in jest here, but can you pick a fucking title for this movie? Because you can't have two.
What do you mean?
The part where it's it's they're driving and it says the title of the movie and it's and it says, I heard you paint houses.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's at the end, it does that again, but then it says The Irishman. And I'm like, 55-year-old Dan. I'm like, what's this movie called again? I thought this was something about houses.
Is this the house that Jack built? The one with that guy, Matt Damon or whatever.
Matt Damon and
Dylan Damon. I don't know.
Oh, man.
No, I did find that.
It's funny. It felt like a Tarantino-y thing to do.
That's what number one, I thought it was Tarantino. Number two, I thought there was going to be 4 more of those title cards.
Yeah, like, oh, that's the chapter. Like, this is The Favorite or something, where it's like, Chapter 1, I heard you paint houses.
Yeah, and then it'd be like...
Chapter 4, or Action Bronson is selling you a casket.
Yeah. That was Action Bronson, wasn't it?
That motherfucker, I'm just like, why is he in this? But I gotta respect him for sneaking in.
I got it. All right, but on to the good, or, mostly.
Yeah.
I kind of like that it explores multiple types of morality.
Yes.
Because you know how there's how Jimmy Hoffa, union leader, the types of morality he deals with.
Mm-hmm. Jury tampering and...
Yeah. And then there's the mob. It's like they have, even though they're pieces of shit for being organized criminals, they have their own weird decorum.
Loyalty, yeah.
And they think being loyal to the mob, that's, that's how you're a man, and like that's how you're a good man. Mm-hmm. Loyalty, and you have a family, even though you're a murdering sack of shit. Oh, you've got a family.
Right.
But again, Jimmy Hoffa is different in that sense.
And it's all about hierarchical structure, where it's like, you got to know your fucking place, whereas Jimmy Hoffa throughout a lot of this movie is like, fuck that. Yeah. I'm about railing against that. That's why the fuck I'm in the job that I'm doing.
Right.
And the part where he goes to jail for jury tampering, and then he comes out, and he's just like, no, I want my fucking union back. And it's like, bro, you gotta fucking chill out.
Yeah, that's the thing is, he thinks that principally the mob and the... Are we doing spoilers?
Yeah, let's go into spoilers.
All right. So he thinks principally the mob and the unions basically work the same in his eyes. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't get that. Like the part where he has the disagreement with the guy from Miami. Yeah. Can we get rid of this guy? Yeah. He doesn't realize the seriousness in him saying that. He just kind of feels like, oh, let's not... To him, saying, let's murder this guy has essentially become the same as let's conspire to make sure this guy doesn't get votes or whatever.
What I really liked is how, so going to De Niro in relation to his relationship with Hoffa, Pacino's Hoffa, it's like, I don't know how they do it, but they do a really goddamn good job of you not fully like like you're not excusing Frank Sheeran for what he does and what he is. But you don't like you absolutely understand that, like, and from what I understand, this is true, like, he was not happy with this shit. Like, he did not like the position that he put himself in, but he didn't like the position that the unions, or the union people that are trying to keep Hoffa away and the Buffalino crime family put him in, which is like, you gotta fucking kill this guy, because he just sucks. Yeah. And he's like, but like, I kind of, like, our families are, kind of close, and like, I'm kind of his friend. So like, it's all muted, but they do a really good job of like, especially, and this is what I was going to get to, the third act of this movie, or like the last half hour, is kind of my favorite part, because it puts everything in perspective. It's like, it's really fucking sad. Like, De Niro as Frank Sheeran is just like in a fucking nursing home, and the FBI comes to him, and they're like, trying to shake him down, quote unquote, and he's like, I'm not telling nothing. And he's like, you're fucking idiot. Everyone that you could rat on is dead. Yeah, you're all that's left. Yeah, it's just so fucking sad, like depressing, but good.
Well, I think that speaks to what I was saying about how there's all these different types of morality, and then it's kind of like, what was the point of all this? Mm-hmm. What's the point of having this decorum if in the end it didn't save anyone or make your life better?
You're not happier.
Yeah, exactly.
God. The fucking scene where he's on the phone with Jimmy Hoffa's wife.
Right. Well, and
fuck.
And that's the other thing is, Frank is so comfortable with killing, and they made that obvious when he gets revenge on the
Nazis,
the POWs that he shoots. Because even though they're bastards, there are
it's pretty damn cold.
Like rules of engagement and all that shit. But from that point on, he's so comfortable with killing. And the problem is he thinks, oh, I think I can do this and manage a family, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. But you can't, because eventually you're going to have to do it to someone when it's really going to hurt you as a person.
People were bitching. Well, I don't want to say bitching. People were complaining and voicing opinions about Anna Paquin's character not having a lot of dialogue. And that being kind of a detriment, where I absolutely fucking disagree.
Yeah, I completely...
Her character has the most amount of power over Frank Sheeran.
Right.
And it's the silence that is the power.
Because she's... I mean,
she knows.
She's kind of in a lot of ways, the pathos for the audience.
Yeah.
Because she's sort of the perspective where, just because you think that you're a good family man or whatever, or how you raise us, you're still a horrible person. Mm-hmm. And you do reprehensible things.
Right.
And that's kind of that thing about this mafia ethics. It's like there's the one level where it's like, oh, I want to do good. Mm-hmm. I want to do good for my family. But I don't care who I have to hurt to get things good for my family.
Right.
It's, it's self-serving still. And the way she just looks at him with such discontent, both as the younger Peggy and as older Anna Paquin, mm-hmm. you really get the sense that she's grown up mm-hmm. and she understands things, yet Frank kind of remains the same. Yeah. Doing the same things, mm-hmm. running with the same people. So I thought her character and her silence in a lot of scenes is really important, because it's her completely acknowledging, like, I know what you're up to, you jackass.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm not cool with it.
And I don't approve.
Yeah.
I don't fucking approve of it.
And it's like Joe Pesci's character, like, I don't get why she like me.
Yeah. Oh, man. And even
it's
him.
Like, because you're one of the people who has turned Frank Sheeran into what he is. That's why.
That character, too, like that last scene where he's like, they're talking about Jimmy Hoffa's like, he was a good guy or whatever. But then, like, Joe Pesci, like, totally does a 180, and he's like, you know what? Fuck him. And it's like, okay, and they're in prison together. And then that scene where he's like, where you going, Russell? And he's like, I'm going to church. And, like, he just dies, like, straight up dies after that. It's like it's like a weird betrayal. It's like, even this guy who's, like, been touting me as, like, his, like, son, like, family. It's like, he just, like, fucking abandoned me and, like, didn't even tell me what, like, he didn't even say goodbye. Like, really? Like, the fuck? Like, I killed the only friend I had, Jimmy Hoffa, for this motherfucker.
Yeah.
And, like, do you also get any meta vibes with this movie a little bit?
How so?
As a commentary, as Scorsese commenting on his own work as a director?
I felt like I did kind of get a weird self-indulgent vibe from this movie, just in general, just because it was so long. And the one, I guess, negative I have to say is, I don't think this movie was asking for you to think Frank Sheeran's a good man or any bullshit like that. Mm-hmm. But there's a part of me where I'm like, I don't want to spend this much time with this character. Mm-hmm. I really don't. And I think movies about shitbags, especially, shorter is usually the better way to go.
Yeah, yeah.
And again, he had gotten away with doing the opposite by making really long movies about bastards. But this one, it's like, the fact that it's so intimate in a lot of ways, it makes it a good movie.
Yes.
But at the same time, I'm sort of like, I'm so done with this dude. Fuck this guy. I don't want to hear anything more about him. Like, the scenes at the very end mm-hmm. with him just loping around the nursing home, I'm just done, okay? Jimmy Hoffa's dead. Mm-hmm. I get it. He ain't gonna rat. He ain't saying nothing. He's Johnny Tight Lips. I get it. Mm-hmm. Jesus.
For me,
fucking end.
For me, that was where the lead up to the movie, like the first 3 hours, we'll say, was where I was like, all right, okay, so he killed Jimmy Hoffa, like, I get it. But then for me, it was the last half hour. I'm like, oh, okay, this is what you're trying to tell us, is like, this motherfucker's life got fucked because of this. Like, if it were to end with him killing Jimmy Hoffa, it's just like, okay, he did a shitty thing and he got away with it. But it's like, this is like, oh, okay, he reaped what he fucking sowed. Or sown?
Whatever.
Sown. But I also thought it was kind of a weird meta commentary on Scorsese, like, coming to terms with his own fucking mortality and age, his own lost time, his own killing of mobsters and goombas over the past decades of time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of got a kick out of that. But again, fucking, I wish we'd gotten that faster. There's so much going on in the middle. I'm like, just come on, like, I get it.
You know what the other thing was, now that you mention it? The beginning takes a while to get to Jimmy Hoffa. Yeah. It's like the first hour is just set up with Frank. And I get that it's kind of important.
And Russell. And
it's the beginning especially where I feel like maybe a miniseries could have worked out better.
I think miniseries for sure, yeah.
Because there, as we said, there's the unions, there's the mobs, there's his family,
JFK.
There's all these
jury trial and all that.
There's all these different elements, and I don't think anything felt completely glossed over, like it was too fast. Mm-hmm. But there were things that I could see you definitely being able to flesh out more, and again add a little more structure. And you could have definitely had it been consolidated. But one thing, because Jimmy Hoffa is such a large focus, and in a weird way, I mean, he's not the main character, but he's almost like a human MacGuffin.
Yeah, yeah.
But because of that, I felt like they should have gotten to Hoffa just a little faster.
Right, I agree.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess that's really all I have to say. It was a really good movie, a little long. It's like, man, I get it, dude. You're a good director. Like, you're probably like
the best living one. Like, it's probably in my book. It's like him, Nolan, Spielberg. I mean, even Spielberg fucks up now. You know, Scorsese doesn't make shitty movies, really.
Yeah, it's like if Silence is one of his like quote unquote bad movies, that's still a great movie. Mm-hmm. And this was also quite good. Mm-hmm. But again, it's just the length was a little too much for me.
I agree.
Yeah. So I guess we'll move on to scores.
Indeed, we will.
All right. What do you got?
So all in all, this is, I assume, a fitting end to Scorsese's run as the gangster movie maestro in chief. And like, even though I've seen him do more with way fucking less in the same subgenre, it was nice to see him step up to the plate for one last time. It was like seeing Ichiro, that last at bat. You're like, and he hits a double. You're like, yeah, that's nice.
Right, yeah.
So I'd give it like an 8.
Okay, that's fair. I think I'd also give it about the same score. I'd say a 4 out of 5. Mm-hmm. And because this had all the famous trappings of a great Scorsese movie.
Of course,
got some tough guys, great attention to detail in the costumes and cars,
music.
Yeah, music, and people getting whacked and such. And, of course, the usual suspects.
Absolutely.
With Joe Pesci, Robert De Niro.
Of course.
Yeah. And what's his name? Al Pacino really steals a lot of scenes as Hoffa.
He's so fucking good.
Yeah. So I will give this, I'll give this a 4 out of 5. So that gives us a grand total of 12 out of 15. So that'll do it for our review of...
Seriously, who gets a green casket?